This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, Joanne, where is the expense? I see where the revenue is for that. For Richfield Springs.
Yeah, on the last page.
Yeah, in the income, it's in two places. One is there's state subsidies and grants, in addition to the 150 for the railroad reimbursement. There's another 325 in that revenues.
Right.
And then there's $1.2 million in federal subsidies.
Oh, I see. It's below that is the Richfield Sewer and Water, 875.
Right.
Yeah,
And
okay, sorry.
if you go way down to the bottom, there's the Richfield Springs Industrial Park, $2.1 million. And also reimbursement to the county of $600,000. So those are really the two big changes, is adding that project in.
Yep.
Right now, I kept the county appropriation at $63,000. Although I did meet with IGA committee and requested $100,000 for this coming year. And they said they would take that into consideration. I'm supposed to get done by tomorrow a full formal request for that amount. And expend it.
You didn't have to flee the room or anything, right? They were somewhat receptive or respectful.
They were somewhat receptive. It was an odd meeting. One was that I had it on the wrong date, thought it was today. So I did it as a Zoom meeting as opposed to doing it in person, which turned out not to be a big issue because there was only two people in two different rooms as the county board. So it wasn't like I could present to the full committee. And then of the committee, there was only 4 members that were actually at the meeting. And so it was kind of we discussed it in but I did do a presentation to them of what we've been able to accomplish this year and basically explain to them that we're maxed out. We can't do any more work. So we get additional. Okay. And they certainly understood that. So you have the budget and actually in two ways. One, I spelled recovery wrong. One is the normal budget that I should do every month to you. And then the other report is actually done on how it will be done for the Paris reports. So for the IDA budget for the Paris reports, it'll show again a total revenue of 3.465 and expenditures of just over 3.4 with the surplus being projected about 59,000. But there's so much detail that's not in the Paris reports that I show you both. You know what budget is.
What changed where insurance went way up? Did we buy a property or?
Yeah.
IOXs, well, there's two things that raised the insurance. One was that we're picking up the insurance for IOXs right now.
Okay.
Before the company paid for that. The second is that we added insurance to cover Wi-Fi equipment being installed in Cooperstown, which was supposed to be installed this year, but hasn't been yet. Intel is behind in their construction facilities right now. But part of the contract with the state was supposed to ensure that the useful life of the equipment for 5 years or something. Those were the two things that we added.
Yeah, just 2020 was 12 grand and then 2022 was 38,000.
Yeah, we budgeted that. We're hoping that it'll be a lot less.
That's got to be primarily for the equipment.
So the one thing I did not add into the current budget is I did talk to Mike Dodolo about Springbrook. They expect to close by the end of the year on that project, but I did not include any revenues on that. Projected income for this year yet.
The part, right.
Yeah. I did include the annual fee in next year's budget. The other thing I haven't added back in, and we'll discuss that when we get to projects, is that NextDam contacted me last week and indicated that they are moving ahead quickly to get a pilot application into us. So that would probably be probably another $50,000 in one-time revenues for this year, and probably another like 3,000 on the out years, 4,000.
Do you have any concerns with the budget? Anything that you want to point out or highlight at all?
No, my concerns are really is not next year's budget. My concerns are going to be the following year's budget. I've got to be able to fill that gap for another $150,000. Because right now we keep rolling the railway project every year. And if we do get reimbursed, which we're supposed to hold a public hearing this month. I expect that in the spring we'll receive reimbursement for that, and then we're in the hole that in the following year, 2023, that money won't be there to plug in a gap. So I've got to work on trying to figure out how we're going to bring revenues up by another 150,000. I mean, it's not critical because every year we do have a surplus, it seems. And every year we do have unexpected pilots that come on. But there could be a year where we don't have that. And so that's why I'd like to ask for 100,000 this year and probably next year increase it by another 50,000 to 150,000. Because we've got to start getting more revenues from the county.
They're very small. It
It is.
for $100 million budget.
And I think that
Sorry, Andrew.
I think the county is recognizing that we're doing stuff that they want us to do. Megan's single-handedly done the micro enterprise grant program. County that's saving them quite a bit of money. There's a lot of support for the Richfield Springs project. Doing additional work in the northern end of the county is just supportive to the southern end. So I do think they're more receptive to funding us. I also explained to the committee that, the county has quite a bit of money right now. Based on. And I'm anticipating that the federal government over the next couple of years is going to continue to push out quite a bit of money to towns, counties, cities, infrastructure improvements.
If anything passes, that's
Yeah.
the thing that should pass, because we had desperate need of infrastructure. Yeah, that's the municipalities right now. Bishops included are sitting on fund balance. Violate the comptroller's, rule. It's not, hard and fast in law that there's some kind of a penalty, but because they so much money on the feds through the state and where we are. So I think now's the perfect time to talk about that. So I have
Jody, have you talked to Alan? The ARPA money is pretty restricted around economic development, like not able to be used for economic development. Infrastructure like water sewer projects are definitely broadband. Those projects I think are clear fit. But did you get any indication that we could use ARPA money to like give directly to the IDA for general operations?
No, I haven't had that discussion with him. I will raise it with him whether he thinks that's possible or not. What he had recommended and the board you guys had approved was on the borrowing of the 600,000. That was just coming from the general fund balance.
Right. Yep.
And I was hoping that goes to seeing general operating support from anything other than the fund balance. You know, I hadn't anticipated. You know, I was just looking to see if the county's normal appropriation would be increased.
Right, which yeah makes sense. Yeah, to increase the appropriation. It you know, if we could use ARPA money, you know, it would be probably an easier you know, sell too. So
And then, Andrew, that infrastructure is appropriate. Can it be used for equipment or just simply infrastructure?
no, I'm not aware that you can use it for equipment. No, I don't believe that's a use for it at all.
Okay.
But one of the other things that we'll talk about, example, is we do have an interest from a developer in the Albany area to look at purchasing county's highway.
Yeah. Did we get a date yet? I forgot to email back about that. I mean, I told you the dates that would work for me, but
Yeah, is that
October 27th at 11.
October 27th at 11. Okay.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said you're free.
Yeah, that's works. Yep.
I'll send out a meeting invite for that today, and then he had asked me who else was coming. So if you do get other county board members or, you know, county officials who want to attend, just let me know so I can let him know.
Yes. I mean, what are people's thoughts on inviting you know, maybe somebody from the village too? Do people care?
No, I mean, they're gonna find out about it at some point, so.
Yeah,
might as
right,
well.
exactly. Yeah.
We'll get to that in projects a little bit more in detail.
Okay. Yep.
What I'm suggesting was that the county's gonna make some money off that deal, and they
Yep.
certainly, through our efforts, could move some of that money towards us. That's
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
I have a quick question on our loan portfolio.
Yeah.
We have two loans in particular that are going nowhere fast.
Yep.
Foothills and Oneonta Theater.
Yep.
Do we have any policy on, do we just rolling those for 20 years or what do we do?
Well, they're in reserves right now, so.
Yeah, from an accounting standpoint, we took them off. When I first was on, we had taken them off because essentially we're not gonna ever collect on them. But from an accounting perspective, they wanted them on in reserves to always be showing.
And just in case someone does finally sell and I make a payment, we still have it there, so.
Okay.
If we get money, great.
What happened with Foothills? I heard about the Oneonta Theater.
I'm sorry.
They're just in a tough financial situation. COVID didn't help them. They were not. in
It
very
was
shape.
free money to them.
Yeah, the problem with most IDAs and most government loans, whether it's through the county or through the city, is that usually they're the funding of last resort. So they become, if there's a bank involved, the bank is in first position.
Right.
The county IDA would always be last position. So if somebody's gonna, I won't say default, but doesn't really have the assets to pay off all the loans, they're gonna drop the county, the IDA, because in order for us to foreclose on it, we have to buy the bank. And then we're gonna be stuck with a building that we had to maybe pay $1.5 million to pay off the bank for our $100,000 loan. It almost doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Same with the theater. In theory, we could spend, I don't know what the bank has, say $350,000.
$250.
We could buy them out and foreclose on it. The problem is then we own a dilapidated building that what are we gonna do? That he can't do anything with. Why do we think we could do anything with?
We wait for the bank loan to get paid off.
Really, we just consider it gone money.
Well, you have,
By not completely writing it off and foregoing our position, at least we maintain a position on the loan if something were to happen. market gets hot, someone
Someone
buys,
buys it.
right?
Again, there's potential we could get paid off.
And it only comes into play if there is a purchase,
Yes.
which one pays off any mortgage, which then potentially puts the IDA loan back in play.
I've run in the past, in other places I've worked on revolving loan funds where we had $1.5 million out in the street. They're a nightmare. I'm glad that the state controller ruled that IDAs cannot legally give loans, because I would hate to continue this program of providing loans to even our micro enterprise, the grant. I mean, originally 10 years ago, they used to only give out loans, so it was a micro program. The state realized that it had so many defaults that they said, okay, we're going to change this to a micro grant. Just
Yeah.
give the money to them and be done with it. We don't have to be reporting on this for 10 years.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, thank you.
We're not bankers.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, this indicates quite clearly that we are not.
Yeah.
So if there's no further questions, we don't need to vote on this today. We would need the current board meeting that we're going to adopt this. But I wanted to give you a couple of weeks to look at it and ask any other questions on it.
So under new and unfinished business, we were going to review the IDA, CRC, and LDC. Was there anything on the CRC or LDC budgets that you wanted to?
The local development corporation and the CRC are basically the same thing. I just gave you the summary. Really, the CRC is putting up 300,000 as the IDA for the Richfield Springs project, so that's shown in there as part of their contribution.
They were so complicated, I could hardly get through.
Yeah.
All one page.
Very complicated.
There's like 2 line items.
And basically, we put in income and expenses for the LDC, the only on rail yards, but like this year, we probably won't spend anywhere near that much money. It's just it's, as the state controller pointed out to me during their continuous ongoing audit, it's just the budget.
Right.
It's not really part of the stuff.
We anticipating breaking ground in the spring for water, sewer, get natural gas.
That's our plan.
Talking about Richfield Springs, sorry.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Jody, do you have any other new and unfinished business for audit and finance? So with that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave. And we'll move into projects.
All right, we will forego the chairman's comments. All had the September 16th project committee meeting minutes. Are there any questions or concerns on those?
None.
If not, I will take a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to the project trackers, I do want to take a few moments here. I know that I feel like the last few meetings we've kind of been shuffling through. So I actually want to do Innovation Acceleration Center last, because I think I want to walk through that a little bit to make sure we're all on the same page there. So if you want to hit since Dave just brought it up, the Richfield Springs business part and kind of where we're at with that. Here's, we only got 2 bids back.
Yes, basically, we've gotten 2 proposals back. Has anybody in this room not seen those proposals yet?
I looked at them last night.
Yes.
Some of them got kicked back to me in my
The ones
email.
that were too large to email.
They were too large, yeah. So we have them here.
Is that,
Okay.
If you want to see them, I can try to resend them, or we can figure out some sort of Dropbox method.
We have 3 copies, so you guys can actually
They
take.
came, I got them on your last email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some board members did. Some I got kicked back.
I've talked to our engineer in the Philadelphia office at EDA, because he said we needed 3 proposals. When I talked to him, he says, well, how did you solicit? I said, we ran an ad in the local paper, not a widely circulated thing, but usually search engines, they find them and refer them to other people. So we did mail them out to, I think, I don't know, I listed it here, 7 or 8 different firms. And I gave them a list of firms, and he said, well, actually, that was quite a bit. He goes, so why don't you review the proposal and let me know? He then said, how much money did you actually put? I said, we actually had in the budget about 30,000 of the grant application. So one came in at roughly a little over 20, one came in at 40. It's somewhat in between. And his comment was, that's quite a spread. But why don't you review them and get back to me? The problem with EDAs, and if you look at my reviews, EDA doesn't give that many grants out. So none of the firms have experience in administering EDA grants. One firm, Barton Wood Judas, actually has some experience writing one, and they referenced that as one of the references to call. And they're actually going to be doing the construction supervision and the final designs and bidding documents for that EDA project, but that hasn't happened yet. They just received it about a year and a half ago as well. So nobody has any experience in administering these grants. They have experience in Empire State Development Grant and experience in community development block grants. I'm like, okay, we can do that ourselves. But
They have extensive experience in doing educational programs, or very, but that's a different story altogether also.
so the other one thing was that Barton Judas actually did follow the instructions, and they gave us a schedule with amount of man hours and hourly rates associated with that. CT Mail just gave us a lump sum. They gave us 3 rates for 3 people, but they don't say how many hours are going to be assigned for each task. And so it's not that that's a critical thing to me. I mean, because what do we know?
Yeah, can put some numbers down.
It's not significant. You know, as far as whether.
I was-
What's the wrong?
Yeah, I mean, for,
I was impressed with these for the amount of money that the proposals are.
I know that me
I was
too.
expecting quite a few more. I wasn't sure which ones these were for. So I was expecting a lot more zeros for booklets.
For the fancy binder.
Yeah.
So we're not going to vote on this today. It'll be brought up at our board meeting, but I just want to get the information out so that we have it to review.
Okay,
And you were.
And you'll-
Make it, sorry.
yes, you're gonna have a recommendation at that meeting.
Yes. We'll talk to Brett at EDA again, tell him what I found in reviewing them. But again, it's a tough call because it's just nobody's really had the experience, so they don't know what to expect.
They've done extensive. These firms have done extensive reporting, you know, as per, you know, large multi-million-dollar contracts, building schools, building stations where they have extensive reporting to SED. So, I mean, they have the apparatus and the experience to do the kind of things that they have to do. It's just going to be slightly different than what they've done.
Just the email or
I think Barton and the Judas do.
insurance. The nice thing about theirs is their price is decent.
Yes.
A lot lower than we had, but not a lot lower.
Their
So
contracts,
there is room to negotiate with them if we need them to do additional stuff.
Mhm.
they're normally, you know, doing projects where their fees are hundreds of dollars.
Yes, I'm like, the amount of, it's not a big contract.
Yeah, it's not a big contract.
Yeah.
So the other thing with the Ridgefield Springs project is our engineering firm about a month ago came out with an outbreak of COVID-19. So they were shut down for roughly 3 weeks and haven't been doing any work. They did call me last Thursday or Friday and say they were really sorry. They apologized. They're back at the office and make this sort of top to get done. And I said, well, fine, but I've been asking for 3 weeks. What's going on? Nobody's got that. The other drawback to this project, and this project seems to be a curse. is that I've been emailing now for the last month every week with Empire State Development saying, where's our contract? We asked, you said, we sent back the information to you back in June, first part of June. It's now on November, and we still don't have an intent limit. And for the last 3 weeks, they haven't responded. The last time they responded, they did say that they couldn't get an answer from the grants office in New York City.
Yeah, I definitely think we need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I explained to them that last email I sent out yesterday to them, I explained to them that we have a budget for that. So we have awards to make supervision or action, project management. And I said, and I have a report to get to EDA at the end of the month. And if I don't have an answer, well, that's what's telling me. State's reneging.
Maybe with the onset of Halloween, they'll get you something. You never know.
That's a big mover. Wait.
But it's candy, they got.
We're good, we're good. Okay,
So that's kind of where we land.
okay. Rail yards.
Rail yards. The rail yards, I guess the biggest issue on that is that between Southern Tier 8 and Mohawk Valley Economic Development System, you know, we're Southern Tier region with ARC funding, and we're also like EDA. Each of those agencies are submitting a grant application to EDA on the Build Back Better grant for EDA. They have like, say, $50 billion to hand out. In both cases, we've submitted the rail yards in for infrastructure improvements. In the case of Southern Tier, we started with the Acceleration Innovation Center to be built there, but we also want within the water, fuel, and roadways, and natural gas into the rail yard. They rated that as their #1 project.
Right.
Mohawk Valley took a different approach, and they looked at all of their counties and asked for what they thought was the #1 projects, and it came back somewhat unanimously, we need more industrial parks. So they are not looking at doing an innovation acceleration center. They're looking at providing us the monies for the infrastructure for the rail yards, water, sewer, natural gas, and upgrade of the electric.
Still a win-win.
Yeah. So those are the two big.
Right, but if we don't turn that into an industrial park, that's not gonna matter to them.
No.
Okay.
No.
So it seems like we're taking kind of, and I understand it, but like, there's like multiple approaches coming at the rail yards. Do we have a clear vision and intent of really where we want to go with it? I mean, so it seems like we're going down the innovation center pathway for the rail yards. Is that kind of the vision, or are we still open to what if we get a buyer in the meantime? Like, are we marketing? Like, I guess I'm just trying to get some clarity on what our vision is for it.
Okay.
So infrastructure improvement is kind of the first, this is really where this project is right now.
Right. My initial vision on this up until 2 weeks ago was that we would look at building, hopefully build a innovation acceleration center on one of the lots, one of the 3-acre lots that already had water, sewer, and gas to it. And the outcome of that would be eventually having companies look at building additional facilities as they outgrow their space there and start actually making money into the industrial park, that we would have a number of buildings put up to accommodate the growth of those businesses. Last week, I had a meeting with Al Rubin, Assemblyman Miller, and Assemblyman, yeah. And they were pushing me to say, well, you can start with your acceleration center there, but we'd like to look at building acceleration and innovation centers throughout that park for more than just the electronics industry. We'd like to see it for other types of industries, perhaps even agriculture. And I said, well, we would be open to that if you can come up with $10 million.
If you're gonna fund it and staff it.
Yeah, and they said, oh, that money is not.
But I think whether it's Southern Tier Mohawk, the end result is that the infrastructure gets taken care of.
Right.
Which is
Right,
really
first and
important
foremost, yeah.
for, adding buildings, whether it's something that, the assemblymen come up with or not. But if you get, so, the innovation center, whether it's successful or not, it gets you the infrastructure that you need to actually push other parcels down there, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, the nice thing about what we have been able to accomplish to date is that the MRB group provided us a fairly good preliminary estimate for the road improvements, the water and sewer.
Right.
We did get a revised estimate from New York State Electric and Gas to upgrade the electric to the maximum capacity that we could handle in our area, and that's about another $2.1 million to upgrade the electric. So we do have their estimate. It's actually a very detailed estimate. We were able to submit those to both Southern Tier 8 and Mohawk Valley Economic Development District, saying, see, we actually have this. Mohawk Valley was smart enough to come back and say, well, in addition to the construction cost, do you need any other cost associated with getting you to the construction? I said, yeah, we need 12% of the construction budget, so another $875,000 for designs and bidding documents.
Right.
And so they're actually going to include that in the request as well, which is, because it's nice to throw out numbers, but if you can't design it, you don't have the money to design it.
My only point is, once you get past the pavement, that's wholly unimpressive down there. You know what I mean? If I was serious about putting up a building, I would drive down through there, maybe run the suspension on the vehicle while driving, doing so, and just look around and go, wow. It's gonna take some imagination to see this as a, so if the infrastructure can, come first, that would be great.
And so just to be clear, you're talking about the design for the infrastructure is what you're just talking about. And that does include the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It also includes the demolition of a number of the structures here.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are on that. Now, in addition to that, that is one of the sites that we did submit to the Brownfield Developers Conference. That's going to be now held in the
Yeah,
spring.
this is where I'm getting, right, yeah. We're putting a lot of eggs into the basket. Go ahead.
And that was one that they highlighted. Megan did a presentation.
That's really great.
And we do expect that people will see that. They're going to actually, as a region, they're pushing like 15 sites, 2 of them are ours. But that will be one that'll be highlighted again and again with the Mohawk Valley region. So we are going to get some more advertising from that.
Yeah, so I think where I'm just coming from is understanding, obviously, infrastructure has to come first so that you continue to move forward. And that's really, I think, where this project focuses on for the next at least year or two. I guess my question for you guys is being prepared to understand if you get a sale or if you get somebody that's looking to buy, what is the game plan? Are we willing to sell it knowing that we kind of have this innovation center in mind? What if they want to buy the whole, I'm just being very, very extreme right now. Are we willing to get rid of the whole rail yards? What would we do then with the innovation center? So I'm just trying to, again, make sure that we understand all our paths and what we're willing to do and what we're prepared to do.
Okay, I am fairly committed that the future is going to be innovation acceleration centers in the country. It's happened in a lot of the big cities right now, but it's now being focused on more rural areas. So if we were lucky enough to have somebody come in and say, I want to buy the entire rail yards, the innovation center would be put in the business.
Okay, so to make sure that we have kind of option B and option C and, okay.
So what you're saying is if Corning stepped forward and said, we'd like to buy.
That's kind of going with it.
You're not going to say, sorry, we've got that little piece designated for the innovation.
And while Corning does not know this, well, maybe they do, but I haven't told them, we have a gas problem in the county. So their production on River Street uses natural gas, and right now they're kind of grandfathered in. My worry is if they say we want to buy the rail yards, nice, it's going to say we can't supply natural gas there. That's why I think it's imperative that we continue with Rambo Engineers on looking at a geothermal development system around that industrial park to offset some of the uses on natural gas.
They,
So I'm trying to,
the interesting thing about Corning Glass is that Corning Glass was really interested in the rail yards. I think there could be some influence coming out of Albany to get NYSEG to do something by natural gas for an international corporation like Corning.
I'm hoping that too. We did talk to Senator Schumer's chief of staff about that possibility. Meeting with IOXIS and Custom Electronics. We had a Zoom meeting with her. And she wants us to, I haven't done this yet, I apologize, but she wants us to send detailed cost estimates for what it would cost to get the. So I'll be doing that probably.
Yeah, right. Interestingly enough, right now, utilities are looking to do something other than natural gas because the cost of natural gas. So there's a push to coal to generate electricity, and but the supply is there. So it's pretty interesting stuff that's going on with natural gas.
Do you guys have any questions on the rail yards? Okay. All right, so Innovation Acceleration Center, I don't think we have to go line by line through this, but I do feel like it is important to kind of walk through this, Jody, with everybody to make sure we're all on the same page about our really more in the ROI aspect of the project. So I don't know, or the budget, whichever you prefer.
The budget that is in there right now is just for the ARC portion. So if you'll see, basically we're asking the Appalachian Regional Commission to pick up a center director and person to do marketing for us for 1 year.
Okay.
We would be committing another $50,000 in cash to do our continued marketing efforts. It'll probably be focused more on investors that have a portfolio that they're looking to unload, or what we've been hearing from Custom Electronics and both them and IOXIS is that these investors basically have a portfolio of probably 12 to 15 companies that they have in their portfolio, and they're looking to grow them or sell. And that's who we should be marketing to. That they're looking for an area that they can, that has land available, has water, sewer, that they need some expertise, such as IOXIS or Custom would be able to provide them, grow their companies. They're also looking for areas, and that's one of the things we want to talk to PaperKite about eventually, is updating our webpage, because right now we only list on our webpage, for example, all the what colleges are in our town. And what we're told by particularly IOXIS is that you should be listing, the education facilities that are in Albany. It's only a half an hour away, and you're not making a case for, look at all these higher education groups that you can provide research for and technical assistance to.
So you're saying 50,000 would be on us, but I don't see, are you talking the 44,000 annual salary for the center director and marketing? So that's the amount that would be kind of what we'd be picking that up for this. And then my other question, when I look at the numbers, is just understanding where is that one-time $3 million revenue coming from?
The one-time $2
Is that the
million.
construction? The
So-
3.3.
Right, so when you're looking at your breakdown here, so our total investment is 3.39.
Oh,
You're looking at IDA revenue one time is 3 million. So is that coming from,
hopefully that'll be coming from EDA.
okay,
And that's what.
so technically not really revenue, but more offset to the
Right.
project cost.
If it doesn't come from EDA, it doesn't happen.
And then your recurring is going to be from the rent, so to speak, collection on a recurring basis.
Yes.
Okay.
I just hastily put that together yesterday, as you probably can gather. So I will flush it out a lot more detail.
I think this is the start. This is for us to start to understand what we're getting out of it, right? What our total investment is. And your 15,000, how many tenants, I know that's not the right word to use, but are you assuming there.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll be honest. It was not right through together that seemed reasonable at the time.
Okay.
There's really no way to know, quite frankly, and.
I know, but Cheryl doesn't like to hear that.
No, yeah.
Well, right.
I can see a 3-year budget where in the first year, there's not a lot of maybe rent revenue, but in the second and third year, revenue goes up considerably with rent, but
Yeah, I mean, so there's definitely a ramp up, obviously, and I think the point of these charters is really to give us an idea kind of what our assumptions are, and then as we gauge progress along the way, we can understand, are we hitting those, are we not hitting those, do we need to do something more or less?
It becomes self-funded.
It does become exactly.
Mike Panteras agrees 100%. He said, you really have to put your metrics into this and get, what are you gonna get out of this?
Yeah.
And that's the only way that you're gonna sell this project.
Yeah.
So we're working on that.
Okay.
You know, it reminded me of the conversation I had with a couple of the investors in Cooperstown Distillery, who were pretty interested in Oswego County.
Yes.
These are the guys that worked together in the tobacco business. And
Yeah, I've got to get back to them. That's the reason we helped them out, was that ultimately I saw them as a come back to.
yeah, and there are a lot of groups like that around the country, and these guys were sharp. They really were. Not to mention the fact that they had some financial wherewithal. So they're the kind of guys that would be interested in something.
I mentioned initially about 3 months ago this project to them, and they said, well, that's not really our expertise. We're into the entertainment business.
Right.
So if you can, he goes, it's not that we wouldn't be interested, it's just would take us a while to get used to investing in a group like this. But they are interested in coming back. They were really appreciative of us getting them the $200,000. Initially, they didn't need it. Their cost overruns for $200,000. So in the end, they said that made a big difference. So, but I do want to bring them back, and that's the type of group that we're looking.
They were in Atlanta, New Jersey, eventually.
North Carolina, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Any other questions on the Innovation Acceleration Center? All righty. Any highlights on the director's report? Any questions? Nope. Pretty straightforward, other than I don't know, Megan, if you had an update on the summit that you presented at?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it. I presented on the the rail yard site and the county's bus garage or highway garage. It was a good presentation, and then afterwards, someone from, what was it, Santa Rubin Construction reached out to me. He wanted more information on the Cooperstown site. So that's what we were just talking about with Andrew. He wanted to set up a meeting for October 27th, and I guess they have a bunch of other sites that they've built. They did the Albany Conference Center. He told me that he's doing housing units in Hudson, Schenectady. So he's really interested in the garage, and I mentioned to him, obviously it's still occupied. So, and he said it wouldn't really be a big deal to build a new garage and move them there so they can get out of it, and he would like to put up 100 units. And
that was the most encouraging thing that Megan told me, was that she was being quite honest with them. She goes, well, we're really not ready because they're still using the highway garage, and until they build a new one, it's not really available. And he said, well, we'll build the highway garage and relocate.
yeah, he's really looking for a pilot from us if it does happen.
Andrew, what's the timeline that the county is looking at for the new garage?
I mean, it's a good question. I think it's very slow moving, but I mean, the whole idea is to build a new garage at BOCES in Milford, and my understanding is that I don't know that there's an actual agreement or contract on the land itself, but there was an RFP on kind of scoping out or building the actual garage, like just trying to get some kind of general cost idea of what it would cost to build it, but I don't even know if they got any responses to that RFP. So it's I can get a quick update on it, but I think the update is that there hasn't been any follow-up necessarily on the county side, kind of pushing it forward.
Because, you know, and winter would be the ideal time to get a handle on the size, you know, and what the facility should look like, so that, you know, you might even be able to break ground in the fall, if that could happen.
Yeah.
And the town, within the last year and a half, completed their new garage. So
Town
they
of
get,
Oneonta.
town of Oneonta, they get a pretty good handle on square footage costs just from the town of Oneonta.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think figuring out what the county needs is probably the easy part. To be honest, I think the reason it really hasn't moved forward is that, you know, that it's you know, it's a money issue, you know. So I think, you know, if somebody is lined up saying, hey, you know, we want this space, this land, and we'll help you kind of make the move. I mean, that would, I think, jumpstart that whole effort.
Problem with this company is that the county's required to go out to bid. So this company would like to buy the current garage. If they won the bid, they could build a new garage, but it still has to go out to bid. Interesting.
Yeah, unless there was another way of making a deal, you know, where, you know, does the county work with the IDA, for example, to take ownership of the garage? And, you know, I mean, there's probably other alternatives.
Yep, absolutely.
I wasn't going to suggest that.
I assumed that there were other options.
The other alternative is a private contractor and investor build a garage and lease it to the county.
Yeah.
That's the only other, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to highlight from the director's report?
No.
Anyone have any questions?
No questions.
All right, we'll move on to new and unfinished business. I don't know. You want to review the annual report?
Can you record?
We'll do it real quickly.
Okay.
Because I didn't realize how much we had. So the first thing is, we'll just jump down to Corning Life Science. So obviously, one of the big projects this year was Corning Life Science. It was $14.7 million expansion. If you drive by, you'll see they're in construction right now. I did have a quote from the Wendell Weeks, the chief executive officer, and he indicated that Oneonta is a key part of the Corning Life Science business, responsible for manufacturing products such as flasks for tissue culture and roller bottles for vaccine production. Oneonta's products are the foundation of a broad range of laboratory work and help enable vital research techniques such as cell culturing, which increases our understanding of diseases and how to treat them. So they do focus on Oneonta. They have actually come out and referenced it from the company's president.
There's pretty significant construction going on down there right now.
Yes. So the IDA was again instrumental in providing them a pilot agreement, sales tax agreement. They particularly were interested in the sales tax agreement. Although what was interesting was I did finally get a number from the city assessor. He's assessing that project at, I think it was $2.5 million on increased assessment. So actually the pilot agreement is actually going to save them quite a bit of money, roughly 50% of their taxes, which didn't happen in other projects that we were working with. But some of the other projects in 2018, they invested $11 million in plant upgrade. And then they did a $1.2 million solar array. So they've invested close to $14, $25, $27 million in our plant for 3 years. So that's encouraging that they're making that type of investments. The second project is Advanced Biotech in New Jersey. They're investing $5 million to expand their operations in Otsego County. They are a leader in the natural flavor and fragrance industry. They purchased the former, people know, the former culture facility, roughly an 87,000 square foot facility. Initially, they'll only be bringing in half a dozen people, but ultimately they plan on moving some of their manufacturing here and hope to grow the positions over the next couple of years to 20 positions at that facility. Third project that we worked on this year was the Springbrook. Springbrook received benefits from the IDA to purchase and renovate the historic board block building. They required mortgage recording tax as well as sales tax and payment in lieu of tax agreements. It's the first time we've really done a housing project. They will create 20 to 24 market-driven housing. And it is the first time we've entered into a 25-year fund. So it's a big step for our IDA. This year, we're actually starting to close out some grants, which is really nice. We're closing out a $750,000 small cities grant. We just went through monitoring inspection, which was responded to last week. We're also closing out the Cooperstown distillery expansion. Actually, also going to be reimbursed for the rail yards, $150,000, and we actually closed out the 205 corridor study this year. Received a reimbursement of $30,000. So it's nice to see projects starting to close out as opposed to just dragging on. One of the other projects that we worked on is with Rambo Engineers out of Denmark. It was interesting being on a Zoom conference with engineers from Denmark because they have to worry about time zone change. But we were successful in receiving a grant. The nice thing about this project is while they're looking at feasibility of installing a community geothermal heating cooling system, on the rail yards, they are doing all the work. The grant agreement is actually going to Rambo, not to which is we're going to try to do more like this.
This is not their first geothermal either.
We've been working, and this has been somewhat of a nightmare for me up until Megan took it over 2 weeks ago.
Yay.
Working with a group from the Mohawk Valley, including Herkimer County, Oneida County, Montgomery County, Schoharie County, Fulton County, the city of Utica, city of Gloversville, all trying to put together a brownfield development center, which was scheduled for actually last week. Finally, common sense prevailed, and they said, let's push it off until the spring because we're still not sure how to deal with COVID. And the unanimous, it was somewhat testy, but it was finally the majority rule says we're going to push it off. I abstain saying I can't go because of some personal issues right now, which actually is doing much better. But the nice thing about that was they are listing two of our sites, the only really ours and 21th Avenue in Cooperstown. As opposed to having the actual summit this year, they had a webinar, and Megan represented our agency. She did a fantastic job, calling her the new face of Otsego now. And
A younger face.
and she got responses back from one developer who was interested in talking to us about. We've also started work on the Innovation Acceleration Center. We're expecting, actually we'll skip the narrative on that and just drop down to the next page, which is, it is ranked as the 4th project out of 8 projects being recommended for funding for ARC funding. So we fell right in the middle. We're expecting that the awards went to the Department of State from Southern Tier 8. It's expected that they'll make a decision by sometime in probably December, maybe early January. It's very unlikely that they would knock a project out. So we're expecting that starting in the spring, we'll be able to get funding for this.
So you're basically what you're saying is that whether this is going to happen or not, we will have a pretty good idea by January at the latest.
Yes.
That's
The other
going to
nice
be
thing
helpful for planning.
The other nice thing on this grant is it's going to provide upgraded equipment for our building so that we'll see better screens. I'm thinking about putting another one in here so that we can show one and have the other be a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
I would do 2 on both if you're gonna do that.
Do one.
Yeah.
We're also administering the counties, and again, we put this in because this is a project that we've been working Vegas here. We're expected to close out the microenterprise grant program this year. The county's already asked us to submit an application for a new micro. County.
Excited about that.
We probably will do that, but based on Nathan's experience, we're going to make a lot of changes in the way we run this program in the future.
It's a learning experience, the first one.
Yes. We continued with our digital marketing campaigns, and that's really, I think we learned some things from the first year we did it. We're making some big changes in it this year and ultimately next year. I'm not going into too much detail on that. The next one is we are working on an application to fund IAC's planned expansion. The town has voted to have us submit a pre-application. The town supervisor called me last week and says, can we please submit this application before I leave office? She wants to take credit for it. We're looking at.
He also wants to make sure it happens. Yeah.
We are looking to apply for $750,000, retaining of 18 production workers and the addition of 31 new plant workers at the facility. Basically, they have a new battery, that they now currently have prototypes for. Was developed in concert between Tennessee and Louisiana. They've gotten a lot of orders from people in the industries, and now they have to find a place where they're going to produce it. They would prefer to produce it up here, but they need new equipment.
That's a large bit. Am I not reading that correctly?
It's primarily used in trucks.
Right.
It is their new Titan 8 series lithium ion oxide battery. They apparently
Hundreds of billions of dollars right now, chasing battery technology. And some of the wealthiest people in the world are in big because whoever, is in a situation where they own the technology for the breakthrough, the amount of money they're going to make is going to be mind-boggling because we're going to go from, we're just going to go electric in so many ways.
apparently Corning wanted to get into making lithium batteries as part of their, because they actually approached Chad Hall 5 years ago and asked if they would use their work. He says, you don't understand how complicated it is and the science that goes into this. So Corning actually, after a couple of years, dropped it. And companies like Ionex, Custom Electronics, are really delving into the field now. Obviously, I'd be remiss by not talking about Richfield Springs. That is still a project that we're working on. We have gone out for consultants to work with us on it. We're expecting that we would go out to bid probably in November, December, with a start date in the spring of 2022. And then the last project, as I indicated, NextStamp did approach us last week. They've gotten their neg deck from the City Planning Commission, of which Megan is now abstaining from because she's on the planning board. But they are looking at building roughly a 7 megawatt solar field at Hartwick, and they do want a pilot agreement. The nice thing was that the county referred this, sent a letter to them saying they did want a pilot and to negotiate with the IDA. The school district and the city both deferred the negotiations to our office on the pilot. So everybody's in agreement for us to move ahead with this.
That's a spring project, I would think, I guess, correct?
Yes. So I'm kind of excited about it. And that's really it with the staff of 4, of which 2 are our attorneys.
Do we have any kind of, so that I think that's just took a moment to reflect there. That's obviously a lot going on for two people. So great job overall there. Do we have any kind of job reports that allow us to understand kind of what the job market is from year over year and understanding really our impact on potential job creation and or retainage as a summary? I think, don't we usually do that in the Paris report? Doesn't there have to be something there?
We'll put one together.
Okay.
Tom Armail has asked that in the past, and we prepared it and
Okay.
sent it out, but we'll prepare one for this year on jobs. There was also Development Corporation. They came out with a new web page on analyzing IDAs in New York State and what projects they've done, and mainly to show to the public how IDAs actually are helping create jobs. I went through it yesterday. They sent a copy to me yesterday. The problem with it, it ends in 2011.
That's very useful.
2000. I mean, it doesn't account for any of the recent projects. And it's just like, well, that's nice, but if you want to show what we did 10 years ago. So that's really my spiel. If everybody is in agreement, I'm going to send this to our county oversight committee. I may make a few minor changes to it, but I do want to reinforce what.
Yep, absolutely. The more you can spread that, the better. Is that something we must, do we put that on our website as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
The last thing on this, we've already talked about it, proposals for the PDA grant management. So those who didn't have a copy, we do review them. And we'll try to get it to other people that are here.
Were you guys able to get that via email, Tom and Andrew? Yeah, so
Yes, yep, I have it.
everyone probably has it via email.
Okay.
Tom didn't get it?
I didn't.
Okay.
Tom, I will try to send them to you individually, and if they get kicked back, maybe when you come back to town, I can drop them off to you.
All right, thanks.
So Meg, if you just want to maybe check in, make sure everyone was able to receive it, okay? Obviously, you've got most of us here today.
Yep.
We'll be prepared for the board meeting on that.
No, it's not a super complicated project. As straightforward as you can get.
The thing that we don't report on is all of the junk we have to do for various reasons. The state controllers, the Paris, and that's what slows us down. It's just like, oh, geez. It's like when we redid the bonds with the CRC, with the state controller's office. When we finally came to the agreement on it. Last week they said, okay, we're reopening the files. Can you re-input all that information? No, I don't want to. We asked you to do this, and now you're going to open it up for us to do it. And then we'll start in the end of December, early January on all of our annual reports, information that we need for Paris systems for
Audit.
all over again. And it takes like 3 months of getting that information. And then we have to recalculate all pilot agreements to make sure that payments were made. And it's just like, it's just so much bureaucratic.
You should just hire somebody to do just that. Just somebody to do reports. Then you guys could deal with that.
And the problem is that, well, ultimately, it's going to be Megan's problem. But it makes sense in some sense for us to take on more responsibility. Like this is the first year we took all of the Corning's pilots and they're coming through our office as opposed to going to the county and the school district and the city.
Yeah.
It makes one portion of our job easier because we know actually what they paid and we know what they should have paid.
So now we have to bill.
But now we have to do it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the county treasurer wants us to ultimately phased in to take on all of the pilot calculations and payments.
No, that's part of the discussion with the county reps. If we're going to take on those responsibilities, and the county needs to help more than they're helping, period, you know? And we're counting on Andrew to make that argument.
I will say,
I think that list, like just that, that list of other services that, that the IDA provides, I don't know that that's ever been kind of presented or handed to the county board. Like what the county board gets is the annual report, but all the other, the other ways that the IDA is providing assistance and support, I think gets lost in the mix. It'd be nice just to have a one pager that just has that.
Yeah.
well, I'll work on that to you first before I send it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It would, if I could say something, I think the value of the IDA, and especially Jody, is expertise and experience. And so in the office of what we're doing is that's where we get a return on our time and investment. The clerical work is work. And if whatever they would want us to take over, there should be negotiation for the job we're doing every time they add something. I mean, if I was a county board, I'd like to offload anything I could, so I'd have to pay for it too. But we all need to be paid for what we do. So, when the IDA gets slowed down to do clerical work that's currently being done by someone else, certainly there needs to be a conversation of what it's going to pay relative to what it costs.
Yeah, definitely agree. All right, so you're gonna work on that one pager,
Yes.
and you'll review it ahead of time. Any other new or unfinished business anyone wants to discuss? All right, if not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I will second the motion.
I'll make it.
All
Keep making it. I said.
right, have a good day, guys. Good, Colorado town.